The 436th edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick'em Scorchers, where you can win 100 times your entry. That's right, turn $5 into $500 in just one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $500. We're also brought to you by Game Time, last minute tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. And next, we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And finally, we're brought to you by our $3,000 NFL Second Chance Survivor Contest, presented by Corey Pinkston and the Barking Dogs property. Feel free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor.
Howdy ho, Degenerinos. Welcome to the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Episode 436 goes out to YouTube because YouTube's finally great again, and they have allowed us on their platform. Yes, you can see us now if you choose to see us again. You can also listen to the music again. Gumby's playing the theme song over top of me talking, which is fantastic.
The technical difficulties of the first time of YouTube. Enjoy, those of you in the pure listening space. You're probably wondering what the hell's going on.
It's Gumby screwing up. We already recorded 7 minutes, and then I X'd out the recording. So now we're back again, and I'll use the same joke as before. I am the ghost of Jeff Fox because I haven't got the lighting figured out yet in here to record. Thank you for coming to the show, whether you're listening or watching. Thank you for coming. We have a UFC event to cover, a big one. UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi is this weekend. So let's I want to bring in my co-host, but you obviously, if you're watching, you can see him. He's already there. Actually, he's already spoken too because he messed up. It's one and only Daniel Gumby Vreeland, not a ghost.
Yeah, not a ghost. Do you think it's because you're just like more pale than I am, or do you think
probably
it's
because I'm Canadian? We don't tan.
Yeah. I assume. Well, there's no sun up there, so you have nothing to tan, which is the biggest issue. True. And then, so sorry about the music thing. We are now on YouTube, and you guys can enjoy our faces and stuff like that. We're now dealing with a slightly different
our faces.
Yeah. We're now dealing with a slightly different recording platform. So like we're working our way through the kinks. So if you happen to hear the theme music twice, or there's like a weird delay between the theme music and when we should be talking, like, just bear with us. This is slightly new, but we're gonna get it down, especially as we get really, really good at this, which I'm sure we're of course gonna do.
Of course, because we're so good at it already. It took 436 episodes. We're so amazing at podcasting. Should we have should we fake the conversation we had already recorded?
Yeah, so we can openly admit we've already had this recording happen before, but we wanted to talk about.
Yes, we want to talk about. The CSAC, California State Athletic Commission, released video of their judges discussing some fights after the last Bellator event. Some perspective on this. California State, that's one of the best commissions around. That they seem to be the most progressive. They do like weigh-ins the day of the weigh-in after the fact to show you how much weight fighters have gained, stuff like that. And they're trying to restrict weight cutting. So they seem to be one of the most progressive commissions around. But boy, they did not come off too good in that recording.
Yeah, and I'll keep this short and sweet. But the biggest issue is just that like it's a bunch of people who don't usually talk to the media and don't usually have their conversations recorded. And you're shoving a camera in their face, and then you like obviously snipped out the piece that makes them look the dumbest, right? Like that's what the media does. We want that narrative that like all judges are idiots, because then it tracks with what we've been trying to say better, and we get to complain about our bets not hitting and things like that. So yeah, I think that all of that's a problem. I still think if you gave these guys a closed door and a little bit more time to think and not a camera shoved in their face, they probably sound better. But also like, look, they're not people who talk for a living. They're people who judge fights for a living. So let's give them a little grace on that.
Yeah. Now the fight they were talking about, do you remember? Was it Kai Kamaka? I think they were saying. did you watch that fight? What they saying? Did it ring true? Because I couldn't tell. Like I said, what they said may have been they may have been having the right take on it, but it was a delivery that made you think, well, these guys don't know what they're doing.
So first of all, you know the answer to that question. It was a Bellator event. Did I watch it?
Yeah, you didn't watch it. That's the one thing that he does not watch at Bellator. He watches everything.
Yeah, yeah. I watch Samurai Fight House. I watch Muradov. What is that? Muradov Fight Team.
Professional Fight something. What's the new one I found? Remember, there's a new one.
Oh yeah, Happy Elephant.
Happy Elephant. Yes, Happy Elephant MMA something.
Yeah, it was like MMA fun. It was like MMA fun or something. It wasn't even like fight related. Yeah, no, I'll watch all that. Bellator I usually don't watch because of the mismatches. But I'll say this, and I didn't see the fight, so I'm completely unqualified to talk about it. Kai Kamako's fights always feel like they're a coin flip. So if it was a hard one to talk about, no shit, it's Kai Kamaka. The guy loves to get hit and he loves to hit people. I remember his fight with Tony Kelly, which I think was a coin flip. So like, yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones where sure, they could have sounded like geniuses. They could have sounded like morons.
Yep. It's Happy Elephant MMA Champions League is what it is. So. Fantastic. We got to cover that sometime. That'd be great. Not this week though. This week, UFC 294, like I said, we're going to do the prelims today, early prelims, and then the pay-per-view tomorrow after I tell you about some of our lovely sponsors that keep us in your eye holes and your ear holes. We'll start with the mothership, the SGPN Second Chance Survivor and NFL Gambling Podcast review contests are on right now. Are you already knocked out of your NFL Survivor? Don't worry. We got you covered with the SGPN Second Chance Survivor presented by Corey Pigston and Barking Dog Properties. $3,000 are up for grabs. Winner take all. Start this weekend. So sign up now. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. And the NFL Gambling Podcast is having a giveaway as well. NFL Gambling Podcast guys are doing a review contest. Leave an Apple Podcast review with your favorite touchdown-related bet for this weekend. The biggest winner gets a $50 SGPN gift card. Make sure to include your YouTube username in the review so we can contact the winner. And finally, Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. Underdog has just introduced Scorchers. Go 5 for 5 and pick 'em Scorchers and enjoy a spicy 100 times your payout. And for a limited time, Underdog is extending the first deposit bonus up to $500. So get in there while you can. $1,000, $100,000. I almost gave away $1,000. It's $100,000 they give away every Sunday. Continues on Underdog Fantasy. 10 lucky winners will win $10,000 each week there. Your Cowboys came through. They're a bunch of cheaters, though. I watched them. Some of the game last night was just flag after flag after flag. But do you have an Underdog pick? Cowboys related this week or not? Or is it MMA?
Oh, well, like the Cowboys are on bye, so it's going to be hard to pick the Cowboys on this one. So I'll say I like the over on the, and you can see it right there on your screen. I'll take the higher than on Khamzat Chimaev's fight time for 10 minutes. I think that fight goes into the third.
There you go. There is your MMA pick. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little cash over an Underdog Fantasy mobile app or website. UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $500. It's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. All right. You ready to jump into it?
I'm ready to jump into it.
Let's do it. UFC 294, October 21st. That would be Saturday. Etihad Arena, Abu Dhabi, UAE. No longer Fight Island. It is now the Etihad Arena. All right, this is going down in that part of the world's time zone. So it may work for some people listening and may not be convenient for others. But we got the early prelims kicking off at 10 a.m. Eastern on the East Coast. Our friend in the Discord, Jong, is going to have to set an alarm. I guess he doesn't sleep anyway. It'll be 7 a.m. for him on the West Coast. And we're starting with the prelims. It's on ESPN Plus from what I gather. And we're going to start off. These cards are full of fighters that you're going to say, oh, that person's still in the UFC. Yes, that person is still in the UFC. At least the prelim portion. Not these two people. One of these people are new. It's middleweights. Sharabutdin Magomedov versus Bruno Silva. And they are at middleweights. Like I said, we're going to tell you about Silva first. Blindado, a.k.a. Armored, is his nickname. 23-9, 20 knockouts. 7 times he's been submitted. So that seems to be his Achilles heel there. 4-3 in the UFC, 1-3 over his last 4. He's broken our hearts over the last 4 fights or so, for sure. Did lose his last fight via submission. Was the M1 champion before this UFC endeavor. 2010 pro MMA debut, plus 215. Magomedov, Bullet is the nickname. Doesn't he go by Bullet? instead of Magomedov. Just
he goes by Sharabutdin. Yeah,
Sharabutdin. Noticeable, he has one eye, so that is an interesting thing about him. And he's scary enough looking to begin with, but now he only has one eye too. He's 11-0 with 10 knockouts. This is his UFC debut. He won his last fight via knockout. He's got multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Used to fight up at light heavyweight pro kickboxing. He is done 2 inches taller than Silva, 5 years younger, minus 250. Go ahead. Tell us about Sharabutdin and make a pick.
So first of all, he is the second fighter we've talked about on this show with only one eye. Did you know that?
Probably. Is it one of your grandparents, the other one? Or?
No, not fighters. They're not fighters.
No.
Okay. No, we talked about regional fighter Dre Miley too, the one-eyed dragon.
Okay.
Yeah, he's also only got one eye, thus the nickname. Sharabutdin, let's talk about him. Electric, like just one of those guys who is, I mean, you'll see the last name and you'll be like, oh, yeah, he's probably got great grappling. Nope. He is an electric striker with crazy good knees in the clinch, tons of spinning stuff. I mean, like he's got all of the things in a striking game to be really, really exciting and also be really lethal. I mean, like you just said with his record, 11-0, he's actually got more wins than that. But if you look at his record, he's got a whole bunch of modified MMA rule fights, those are what they are. Like you can put as much stock in that or as little stock in that as you want. I'm not sure what the modified rules are, but I will tell you he's got knockouts in those too. So like he's got a crazy kickboxing style. And when you put him up against Blindado here, Bruno Silva is a good striker, right? Like that we've said that time and time again, but like he's slower than Sharabutdin. He's going to be hittable. I mean, we saw in the Brendan Allen fight, right? Like Brendan Allen touched him on the feet. And if Brendan Allen is hitting you on the feet and then you get up against a kickboxer, it's not going to go better. You know what I mean? So I really like the price here on Sharabutdin. I actually think the price could be higher. Negative 250 just doesn't seem steep enough for me. So yeah, give me Sharabutdin out the gate.
Despite all of what you said, I'm taking the underdog here.
I knew you were going to.
Did you know it?
Yeah. I don't know why. Is it okay? So fill me in here. Is it the level of competition for Bruno Silva? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. All right, cool. I know you well enough. 436 episodes.
Yeah, you should know by now. Yes, it's the resume. Obviously, not just fully a resume pick. Silva basically has, if you look, other than Alex Pereira, he loses to grappler first type fighters, even if they do. If they can beat him up in the feet, like Brendan Allen, like you said, usually grapplers he loses to. Like his experience better. Sharabutdin has not fought anyone good, unless there's someone hidden in his resume that I'm overlooking who has a crappy record, but they're really secretly good. So I'll take known commodity, even though he has broken my heart a few times in the past. I'll go back to the Silva well one more time for a nice number.
Yeah, hard dog out the gate for you. That's not usually your style.
It's going to be an interesting event. Let me tell you. I heard some of your picks on your other show, Top Turtle, and I've got some weird picks. So yes, it'll be an interesting one. First one in the video is going to be interesting. All right, let's move to women's strawweights. Shall we? Victoria Dudakova versus Jinh Frey. Yes, Jinh Frey still in the UFC. Mrs. Frey. 11-9, 1 knockout, 2 submissions. She's been knocked out 3 times, submitted once, 2-5 in the UFC, 0-3 over her last 3. Has not won since July of 2021. Used to fight down at atomweight. Bring atomweight back, or bring it actually to the UFC, please. And thank you. Has missed weight a couple times, or she missed weight a couple times at atomweight. She's good to go now that she's up at strawweight. 7-2 in Invicta and was the champion at 105 pounds there. Multiple regional championships on her
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. 2013 pro MMA debut. Twice more active than Dudakova. Frey's been outstruck in the UFC by 1.16 strikes a minute. She's at plus 400. Dudakova 7-0, 2 knockouts, 4 submissions. She 1-0 in the UFC, 1-0 in Contender Series. 2 inches taller than Frey, 2 inches of reach on her. 14 years younger than her. She has been outstruck over her 2 fights inside the octagon by 0.39 strikes a minute, minus 500. Dudakova obviously is the pick here. She's being set up with Frey here. I wish Frey had retired after that nasty knockout a couple fights ago, but she did not. Now she's being fed to someone 14 years younger than her and way bigger than her. So Dudakova is the obvious pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on Dudakova. I don't know necessarily that I love negative 500 because she's kind of unproven too, right? Like if we're talking resumes, you're right. Like her resume is still even a little better because she's got she beat Maria Silva and she beat some other, was it Stella Nunes? She dislocated her elbow.
Yes.
So like, fight. Yeah, so she's got some decent names on her resume, and Jinh Frey doesn't have a ton of them. So I'm a little bit hesitant on pulling the trigger on -500 because of the resume. I still think Dudakova's shown enough. And the other thing is just like, what's tricky for Jinh Frey when she can't be the tougher, more physical fighter, right? Like she beat people who she could kind of manhandle. And then she had a lot of trouble with she couldn't even really manhandle Vanessa Demopoulos. Like Demopoulos didn't get a ton of takedowns, but she did clinch her and push her around and then wind up striking more because she had clinched her and pushed her around. And, I don't think Vanessa Demopoulos is as strong as Dudakova. So yeah, I think this is a good spot for Dudakova. Like a lot of these fights, it sort of feels like they're just setting up the dude, or in this case, lady, to pick up a big win.
Just setting up the dude, Akova, for a big win here.
Hey,
yeah. Hey, there we go. Dad jokes translate to video too. All right, featherweight time. Nathaniel Wood versus Mohammad Naimov. Let's get to the correct part of my spreadsheet, shall we? We're going to tell you about Naimov first, who was a guest on Top Turtle MMA podcast this week. Gumby interviewed him. Hillman is the nickname. 9-2, 4 knockouts, 3 submissions, never been finished in a fight. 1-0 in the UFC, 0-1 in Contender Series. Won his last fight via TKO. He's won 4 straight fights. He's not lost since February of 2021. Used to fight at lightweight, 3 inches taller than Wood, an inch of reach on him, a year younger. He's been outstruck over his UFC and Contender Series fights by 2.05 strikes a minute. He's at plus 270. Wood, the prospect, is the nickname, despite being older than the person he is fighting. The prospect is 20-5, 20-5, 9 knockouts, 5 submissions. He's been knocked out twice, submitted twice. 7-2 in the UFC, 3-0 over his last 3, 4-1 over his last 5. Has not lost since October of 2020. Used to fight at bantamweight. Was the Cage Warriors champion. 1-0 in Bellator. 2012 pro MMA debut. Better striking stats, better grappling stats, and more active landing strikes than Naimov is in the octagon. And Wood has a positive strike differential, easy for me to say, of 1.89 strikes a minute. He's at minus 325.
So I'm going to go dog here.
Whoa.
I'm going to
go
Mohammad
because you had him on your show.
Well, and
you
it's
don't
not
usually put people on your show.
It's not just that I had him on my show, although part of the reason I had him on my show is because I kind of liked him in this spot. Yeah, I've reached out to his manager. Manager's a real good guy. I hadn't done a lot of work with his manager before. But if you look at the issues that Naimov has had in the past, and you could count the Malarkey fight if you want, although the Malarkey fight happened up at lightweight and on super short notice. So anytime he looked bad in that fight, I kind of attribute it to that's not his weight class. Jamie Malarkey's a big ass lightweight, and he's usually this guy's usually a featherweight. So you can sort of throw that one out. And then in addition to that, any of the issues he's had has largely been grappling based, right? Malarkey kind of forced him to grapple a little bit. If you want to go back to his time on Contender Series, which at this point in time is, over 3 years ago, he lost in largely a grappling decision. And I think for me, I can't imagine Wood, especially at this weight class, taking him down a ton. Wood is kind of fallen in love with his hands and especially his quickness at featherweight. That's what gets him by at featherweight, because he used to do it at bantamweight and he was the same speed as people. And now up at featherweight, he trusts his hands, he trusts his speed, he trusts all those types of things. And with Naimov, I don't think Naimov's going to outstrike him. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he's going to outstrike him, but I think he needs one. He needs one punch to land, because this dude hits so freaking hard for a featherweight. I mean, we saw it at lightweight last time. He went out and knocked out Jamie Malarkey, and he knocked him out cold, right? So for him to already be knocking out dudes who are way bigger than him, and now he's fighting a guy who's a weight class lower than him. He's going to go from fighting 55ers to 35ers in a blink of an eye. I do think he can turn the lights off on Nathaniel Wood. I think that one punch power is worth this big, what would you say, plus 270. Plus 270 price tag. Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying gun to my head, I definitely pick him. But I think it's basically a coin flip. So I'll take the power, the coin flip, and the plus 270.
Now that people can see us, they know there's no gun to your head. So it is a proverbial gun to your head.
Just Chuck Liddell. That's all.
Chuck Liddell. It's the ice gun. I'm going Wood, of course, because this is going to be a very we're going to differ a lot, I think, on
we're just not going to make any of the same picks.
No, we're not going to make any of the same picks. Yeah, I like Wood better, obviously. Who he's beaten, what he's done, his all-around game. I like Wood better here, but probably not, especially with you picking Naimov. I'm probably not interested in a -325 line on Wood though. So I think the next one we're probably gonna link up on. It is the main event of the prelims. Mike Breeden in the main event. Lightweights, Mike Breeden, not the guy that used to work for me, versus Anshul Jubli. Let's scroll up. I think I'm going to tell you about Breeden first. Pretty sure he's the underdog here. Money Mike Breeden, 10-6 with 8 knockouts. He's been knocked out himself 3 times. 0-3 in the UFC. Lost his last fight via TKO. Has not won since May of 2021. Has missed weight before. I think that was a couple fights ago. 0-1 on Contender Series. 1-0 on Bellator. Used to fight at 170. An inch of reach on Jubli. He's been outstruck in the UFC by 1 point and Contender Series by 1.80 strikes a minute. Better grappling stats than Jubli, plus 250. Jubli, King of Lions, 7-0, 2 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been 1-0 in the UFC, 1-0 on the road to the UFC. He won the championship of the season he was on the road to UFC. Won that fight via TKO, the championship fight. 2 inches taller than Breeden, 6 years younger, better striking stats, more active landing strikes. And he's got a positive strike differential over his road to fights of plus 0.89 strikes a minute. So he outstrikes his opponent almost a strike a minute, and he's at -275. Obviously, Breeden shouldn't even be in the UFC anymore. So give me Jubli. He looked good. Not that he was fighting a murderer's row of competition, and he only squeaked by in his opening fight in road 2 by split decision. But Jubli is good enough to beat Mike Breeden, I believe. So give me him here.
Yeah, and you're right. He did squeak by in his first fight, but in the finals, he fought Jekka Sarigi.
Yep.
The UFC decided Jekka was good enough to keep around. He's got a fight coming up with, I want to say Jesse Butler. I want to say that fight is. So, like, the UFC thinks the guy he beats good enough to hang around with. So, obviously he beat a decent level of opponent. The other thing is just the style matchup here. It's so obvious, right? That the UFC likes what they have in Anshul Jubli, mostly just because like they don't have anybody in that Indian market who can kind of be the flag bearer for him. And so they found him an opponent who can't stop his wrestling, right? Because that's the thing about Anshul Jubli. Anshul Jubli, good wrestler. The rest of his game, it looks like it needs to be evened out, especially at lightweight, where, everybody's got like all kinds of different skills. And he is a guy who wrestles super well. He's fighting Mike Breeden, who got taken down 9 times by Natan Levy. I mean, like, what more to say than that? Like,
sick burn, dude. Sick burn.
Well, and I'm not even hating on Natan Levy. He's just not a wrestling expert, right? Like, the thing I like about Natan Levy the most is his kickboxing. Like, he's an incredible kickboxer, and he took Mike Breeden down 9 times. So, like, Jubli's going to take him down. He's probably going to ground and pound him out. Give me Jubli here.
And Jubli is a very important fighter to the UFC because he is from India. And is he the only fighter from India on the roster currently? I think they just signed a female fighter.
Really? I don't know that for sure.
I just saw a headline.
Okay. There you go. 2.
2. So yes. So I'm sure they're going to feed him some winnable fights. Not that there's ever any layups in the UFC, but they'll probably give him some winnable fights, manageable matchups going forward, and see what the man can do. All right. Good timing. We finished early prelims. We're going to jump into the main prelim portion after I tell you about game time. All this money we're going to help you win here. You can take your special someone out to an event via Game Time, because Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more, aka MMA. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And Hall of Fame bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg. as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right. We did the research for the main prelims, and we shall jump into it right now with a middleweight fight. Oh, this is a 10 a.m. Eastern. This one would be noon Eastern if you're on the East Coast, as we are 9 if you're in Jong time zone. Middleweights, Abu Azaitar versus Sedriques Dumas kick things off. We're going to tell you about Azaitar first. He's Captain Morocco. He's 14-3-1, 7 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been knocked out twice himself. 1-1 in the UFC, 5-1 over his last 6, 9-1-1 over his last 11. He did lose his last fight. That was way back in March of 2021. Let's check out the stat for that, shall we? Fighters who have been out of the cage at least a year, Does ring rust exist, or is Dominic Cruz correct? 46% win rate for fighters who have been out of the cage for a year. And that's historically, and for this year, it is 47%. So right along the same number. So I guess Dominic Cruz is not correct. Imagine that. All right. Azaitar has not won a fight since July of 2018. 2-0 World Series of Fighting. Used to fight up at welterweight, or down, at welterweight. Regional champion. 2009 pro MMA debut. 3 times more active landing strikes than Dumas is. He has been, Azaitar has been outstruck, though, over his 2-fight UFC career by 0.14 strikes a minute. He's at plus 200. Dumas, the Reaper, Sedriques, doesn't really need a nickname with a cool name like that, but he's the Reaper. He is 8-1, 4 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been submitted once. 1-1 in the UFC, 1-0 Contender Series, won his last fight. He's fight up at light heavyweight. So we got a former light heavyweight versus a former welterweight. 5 inches taller than Azaitar, 3 inches of reach. So there you go. That makes sense with the weight class differences before. And he's 9 years younger. He's got better striking stats, better grappling stats, and he's barely outstruck his 3 opponents in the octagon by plus 0.08 strikes a minute. He's at minus 225, and this would be Gumby.
So I'm going dog here. I'm going to Abu Azaitar, and here's the thing. I think the stats are slightly skewed in this fight for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Abu Azaitar being outstruck stat is literally just the 3rd round of that Marc-Andre Barriault fight. Right, Marc-Andre Barriault got his ass kicked by Abu Azaitar for 2 straight rounds, only to have Abu completely run out of gas and eat like 1 billion punches in that 3rd round and wind up losing. And for me, is his gas tank a little bit alarming? Absolutely, his gas tank's definitely alarming to me. But I don't know that Sedriques Dumas is the type of guy who can push you to the edge of your gas tank. I mean, he didn't even really, you mentioned Abu strikes at a higher clip. He didn't even really put a pace on Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd was piecing up Sedriques Dumas on the feet. And if you've watched any of Abu fight, Abu is a much, much, much faster striker than somebody like Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd is a grappler who just happened to land a bunch of strikes in that fight. So I think Abu Azaitar is going to be faster. He's obviously got the knockout power. Dumas does too, but I don't know. I think Dumas winds up being more hittable here, and Abu Azaitar looks much, much better. So, yeah, give me the dog money on Abu Azaitar.
Different again, of course. I'm not a fan of the line, though. I think this is a closer fight. Obviously, if we're both taking different sides, it should be a closer fight than what it is on the boards. Guy with the gas tank issues who hasn't fought in over a year and a half.
But he's got those magic potatoes, though. You forgot about
that's true. He's a potato guy. I like him. It's way bigger, way younger, more momentum on his side, if that even matters in fighting. I don't know. I don't have a stat on momentum, but
was he supposed to fight Sedriques Dumas in that potato fight?
We'll have to check Capology for that one.
I think he was supposed to fight Sedriques Dumas when he smuggled the potatoes in.
I was just going to tell the people about the potatoes while I look it up.
Yeah. So he
are new to this.
He had somebody smuggle him a duffel bag through the no-fly zone of Abu Dhabi, and so they got him this duffel bag he very badly needed, and Nobody could tell you what was in the duffel bag. They just got it on like camera. And then after the fact, he was like, oh, it was potatoes. But like they removed him from his fight for violating the like quarantine policies of Abu Dhabi. So, I mean, draw your own conclusions about what was in the bag, but it certainly wasn't potatoes.
Magic potatoes. No, Dumas, he was supposed to fight earlier this year, March. He was supposed to fight him originally. He had a fight with Buckley. Joaquin Buckley canceled, and Alessio Di Chirico canceled. So it could have been
one of those
in 2020.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So that is the Abu Azaitar lore. You know it now. And Gumby and I are on the different page again. I think we're going to sync back up here. I just have a feeling because one of our boys are fighting here. One of our friends, the Snow Leopard, not a personal friend, a friend of the we're fans of. That would be Javid Basharat. He's at bantamweight. He's fighting Victor Henry. And we'll tell you about Henry first. La Mangosta is the Mongoose. Yes, we got Mongoose versus the Snow Leopard. Obviously, you're going to pick the Snow Leopard, right? Or a Mongoose is vicious. I've never met a Mongoose or a Snow Leopard for that matter.
Yeah, me neither, really, outside of a zoo.
Yeah, that's true. There's no Mongoose roaming around your backyard in the wilds.
None that I've seen.
But if there was, your dad would be able to tame it, right? If it was
Mongoose, probably. The bear whisperer.
Yeah, for people who weren't listening back then, Gumby's dad used to talk to bears. Would come up on your porch, and he would have the door open. He'd be like inviting them in. Is that not correct?
That's roughly the story. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. All right. Let's get back on track. Henry, 23-6, 6 knockouts, 8 submissions. He's never been finished himself. So that's some durability. This is his 30th fight he's going into here. So, that means Gumby, he's due to get finished, right? Right, Yanni?
He owes us finishes.
He owes us finishes. All right, Henry's 2-1 in the UFC, 3-1 over his last 4, 11-2 over his last 13. So he is on a nice later in his career run here. Did win his last fight. Multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get that shirt, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. 2010 pro MMA debut. More active landing strikes than Basharat. He's got a positive strike differential of 2.69 strikes a minute. So that's very impressive. He's a plus 450. The book's not impressed by it too much. The Snow Leopard is Basharat, 14-0, 5 knockouts, 6 submissions, 3-0 in the UFC, 1-0 contender series. Was a regional champion. He's fight at featherweight. 2 inches of height, 1 inch of reach on Henry, 8 years younger. Better striking stats, better grappling stats. He's got an even better strike differential. He outstrikes his UFC and contender series opponents by 3.34 strikes a minute, minus 550. Obviously, Basharat is my pick. He's legit, and I think Henry obviously is a top customer. Never been finishing a fight. Extremely experienced as well, and on a very very hot streak. So the number is probably a little skewed up here, but I think Basharat's going to come through.
I don't think it's skewed. The big issue is that Henry's got no takedown defense. I mean, and maybe none is a little bit of a stretch because he is. No, I take that back. I got the stats in front of me now, which I now have to do on my phone instead of another window. He has a 0%. Oh no, that's 0% takedown accuracy, 79% takedown defense, which I guess is not bad. But most of that is just that he stuffed 14 of 17 takedowns against Tony Gravely.
Oh, and yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Like
3 of 17 Gravely was. Wow.
Yeah. That's not real great. But, Rafael Assunção scored a bunch of takedowns on him. And, we don't think Assunção is a big takedown artist. Raoni Barcelos got takedowns in that fight. We're just talking about a guy who concedes takedowns up against a guy who's phenomenal at taking people down. And the thing that, we're kind of the elephant in the room about this fight too is Javid Basharat is not just good at taking people down. Javid Basharat is an expert at holding people down. So even in that Tony Gravely fight or that Rafael Assunção fight or, whatever of those fights you want to talk about, those guys took him down, but then didn't have a good time keeping him there. And that's why he won 2 out of 3 of them. Then you take somebody like Javid Basharat and just doesn't let you up. I can't imagine Henry has a good time with that. Not to mention Basharat is also a very good striker. Henry's a little bit erratic, but I don't think that bothers Basharat at all. In fact, he'll probably open up more avenues for takedowns. So yeah, I like Basharat. I don't even think the number's that bad.
Is the elephant in the room a happy elephant that's an MMA champion?
Happy elephant MMA championship league.
And you may as well have all those tabs open on your on your laptop because you're still laggy as hell. So
I'm gonna
reading
blame
things
you.
off your phone doesn't matter.
I'm gonna blame you.
Probably it is me.
And pray that this recording sounds good on
We're
our new
soldiering
platform.
on. I don't pay attention when Gumby talks anyway. I just look for his lips to stop moving now, and then I know it's my turn. Lightweights, Mohammad Yahya versus Trevor Peak. Do you know Yahya's full name, Gumby?
I don't.
I had
is
it
at
at one
like
point.
7?
He's got a really long name.
So you don't know it either.
Not off, and it's the Yahya's not spelled like he spells it like Ronnie Yahya, Yahya, but that's not what his birth name is spelled. Apparently, it's Yaya. He's Mohammad Yahya Saeed Juma Sanad. There you go.
Okay.
That's his full name, but it's Yaya. So is that Americanizing it? Put an H in there.
I don't know. Isn't that Brazilian though? Because we got Hani.
Yeah, it's true. Hani Yahya is Brazilian. That's true. All right. Anyhow, Yahya is 12-3, 7 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted twice, so finished in both of his losses. This is his UFC debut. So Gumby can tell us about him, hopefully. He's won 5 straight fights in 7 of his last 8. He has not lost since November 2020. Was a regional champion. Went 1-1 in Bellator. Poured a little liquor almost for Bellator. Used to fight at welterweight and down at featherweight, 3 inches of reach on Peak, plus 140. Trevor Peak, 8 knockouts, 1 submission. He's knocked out all 8 of his opponents that he's beaten. He himself has never been finished. 1-1 in the UFC, 1-0 Contender Series. Lost his last fight, minus 155. That's all I got for him. Go ahead.
I'm a little bit disappointed that Trevor Peak is not still an underdog, because if you got this,
I thought he was going to be. Did he open an underdog?
He was an underdog like Monday, like Sunday and Monday. He was an underdog. Now he's all the way up to negative.
I was excited. I thought, oh boy, I was going to get an underdog pick here. But
yeah, and I'm going Trevor Peak too. So I mean, you obviously just spoiled it for yourself, but I'm also going Trevor Peak. For those who don't know Mohammad Yahya, he's a kickboxer, first of all, and he's a guy who does a lot of counter striking. He does a lot of backing up, waiting for his opponent to throw and then trying to counter him. And that, I mean, obviously that can work against Trevor Peak, but like, you're not putting Trevor Peak out. Like, until somebody knocks Trevor Peak out, I'm going to trust Trevor Peak's chin. It's going to be like the same thing. Like we were talking about Court McGee all those years until, who is it? Jeremiah Wells knocked him out, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. And until Jeremiah Wells knocked Court McGee out cold, I was like, nobody's knocking Court McGee out. Court McGee's not going out. I feel that way about Trevor Peak now. Until I see somebody put Trevor Peak cold, I don't believe anybody can do it. So this guy's going to backpedal and try to like counter strike Trevor Peak en route to a decision. Like, I don't know that that'll work. And in addition to that, the last one of his fights that I watched, he looked gassed in the third. He looked tired in the third. So if you're fighting somebody else with that style and you're getting tired, dude, I got some bad news when you're fighting Trevor Peak, because, dude, that guy just keeps coming. So, yeah, I like Trevor Peak here. I don't even think the negative 155 is bad. Obviously, I would have liked to have the, plus 120 that Sunday or Monday had. But, yeah, I like Trevor Peak even at this number.
You can't counter-strike if you're not conscious, right?
Yeah, I mean, then Trevor Peak could hit one of those stupid hammer fists, which is
exactly.
I mean, it would
exactly. I was thinking, is he the hammer guy? I started questioning myself, but yes, he is the hammer fist man. He's the best.
And he's going to have Therese Finney in his corner too. For that,
oh, yeah,
Therese Finney, who should have gotten a contract in the first place, will be out there cornering him.
Oh, he needs more experience, Dan.
It's just, I'm not going to.
All right, we're going to the main event. Main event time of the prelims. Flyweight Tim Elliott versus Mohammad Mokaev. It's good to see flyweights in a kind of a feature spot here. All right, Elliott, 19-12-1, 3 knockouts, 6 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted 5 times, 8-10 in the UFC over 2 stints. However, he's won 2 straight fights and 4 of 5, so he's on a roll. It was that wife of his that was dragging him down, apparently, Dan. He's not lost since October of 2021. Used to fight down at bantamweight or up at bantamweight because he's a flyweight. 4-0 the Ultimate Fighter and the champion. Even though he's not listed as a champion, but he won that season.
Yeah, because he didn't win.
Demetrius Johnson won.
Yeah, he technically didn't win in the finale, but he did win in the finale of the in-house tournament, which was when he beat Hiro Okikobu was in the finals, right?
If you say so. I don't remember him, but yes. Elliott also a regional champion, 2009 pro MMA debut, 3 times more active than Mokaev. He's outstruck his UFC opponents by 0.71 strikes a minute. That's impressive that he has a positive strike differential, and he's fought almost this will be fight 19 in the UFC. So not a small sample size for this man at all. Plus 350. The book's not impressed. Mokaev, the Punisher, 10-0 with 1 no contest. Knockouts, 5 submissions. He's won 4 straight fights. 3 of those 4 have been via submission. He's fight up at bantamweight, is a wrestling champion. He's a very high level, national level wrestling champ in Britain. 4 inches of reach on Elliott, 14 years younger, better striking stats, better grappling stats. He's got a positive strike differential of 0.27. He's at minus 435. Here's one of my crazy swings, Dan. I'm going Tim Elliott, plus 350.
We're on the same page, my man.
Oh, wow. Nice. Mokaev didn't look good in his last fight. He ended up winning. Via submission, which is what he does. But Tim Elliott is a tough guy to figure out, especially for a fighter rather new to the game, relatively speaking. Elliott is a very difficult, awkward guy to fight. Good at basically all aspects. He's very good at grappling. That's where Mokaev makes his hay. So yeah, I think Elliott's going to be able to, and now that he's old, he's going to be even crazier than ever, even more awkward than ever. He's going to have to use the old man tricks and stuff. He's on a nice little roll as well. So I think Elliott is worth a stab at plus 350.
I think you're right. I think Tim Elliott makes a lot of sense at plus 350. And I'll say this too, is that, you mentioned the last fight with Mohammad Mokaev, the one with Javid, who, had him in that knee bar and seemingly destroyed his knee. And, everybody thought that fight was over, and he didn't look good in scrambles. Like, he got caught in scrambles looking bad because he is an excellent wrestler, but sometimes he just doesn't quite know what he's doing in scrambles. And it's not just the Fialho fight either. You could go back to when he fought Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon beat him in a couple of scrambles too and wound up in good positions. And you were like, is Malcolm Gordon really on this dude's back right now? Like, what the hell is going on? So if you had trouble with scrambling with Fialho and Malcolm Gordon, Tim Elliott is the king of scrambling. Tim Elliott scrambled with Demetrius Johnson and made himself look good in those cases. So I like the chance that Tim Elliott maybe doesn't scramble necessarily to a submission, but he scrambles to enough top positions to win time. And, hey, what Tim Elliott did on the feet to Tagiro Lambakov, kind of impressive. Yes, he was grabbing the gloves and doing some really dirty stuff.
Old man tricks.
Old man tricks. But he put him up against the cage. He nullified the striking. He made him work really, really hard for everything he got. And he won a decision. And I think he could do that here against Mokaev. And I also think he could just submit him with Mokaev making a really dumb mistake in a scramble.
Yep, it is true. And is Mokaev's issue, he's overconfident in his wrestling, so he allows guys to take advantage of him on the ground because he thinks he's going to be able to get out of it?
I think he's just one of those guys who his wrestling is so good, right? You mentioned his wrestling's really impressive, but that doesn't mean your jiu-jitsu and all of the pieces that go along with, the judo and the sambo and whatever other thing goes along with it is airtight, right? So sometimes you see him, just overplow a double leg takedown. And as a result, the guy's body turns too much or something like that. And he winds up scrambling instead of just landing safely in side control. It's almost like his wrestling at times is too powerful for its own good. And he doesn't settle into positions. He's I'd rather big slam you and hurt you that way than set you down carefully in a position that makes sense for me. So I think that's some of it. And also he's fought some guys who prefer to grapple. So give some credit to Malcolm Gordon, give some credit to Javid. I just still don't think they're as good as Tim Elliott is.
Yep. This is definitely worth, obviously, we think it's worth a stab at plus 350, or we would not be recommending it to you. All right, let's recap. Then we'll get out of your ear holes and perhaps your eye holes. All right, Elliott, we're both in on as a big dog. We're both in on Peak as a slight favorite. Basharat, big favorite. Dan likes Azaitar as a dog. I like Dumas as a favorite. In the early prelims, both like Jubli as a fairly big, moderate favorite, we'll say. I like Wood as a bigger favorite. Gumby likes Naimov as a pretty big dog. We both like Dudakova as a very huge favorite. And in the opener, Dan likes Sharif Bullet Magomedov as a moderate favorite. I like Silva as a moderate underdog. There you go. All right, we got this one in the books. We're going to be back on tomorrow. That's good English, but that's how we're gonna roll out of this thing. In the meantime, Discord obviously is the place to be to find us. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Twitter, SGPN MMA. Gumby runs that. He's at Gumby Vreeland. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer on Twitter, X, and on Instagram. I got a Substack. It's free. I got a free to enter pick'em contest on that Substack. So subscribe, enter the contest. Maybe you can win some stuff. It's moneymma.substack.com. Gumby's got Top Turtle MMA podcast, which we were discussing already here. He drops it once a week. I'm not on it. So there is a positive. And you don't have to look at anyone on it either, right? It's just for your ears currently.
Just for your ears forever and always.
Right. Forever and always. Who is on it this week?
We talked to Mohammad Naimov, who we talked about his fight a little bit earlier on with Nathaniel Wood. And I talked to Chris Lieben about MMA judging and refereeing.
Yes, a very good interview. Gumby didn't fanboy out too much. He was very professional. Didn't. I was thinking you may have some. I wasn't sure if you had some of his paraphernalia behind you, but it looks like you don't. So that's good. You would have looked like a stan if you had done that. So it's good. Anyhow, Top Turtle is a place to be if you're not listening to us. All right. And then obviously sportsgamblingpodcast.com and the Patreon, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Help us crush corporate gambling. We'll be back tomorrow. It will be me, Sharabutdin, Fox, and Blindado. Vreeland will be there as well. And we'll talk to you then. Bye.